Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're having a good evening. So today I kind of wanted to go over a topic I had previously covered in another one of my videos. But now that it's been a year since their release, I kind of wanted to give an overall review of the experience of playing said video game. And more than that, just kind of for those looking to get into the series and try to start playing through, what things to look for and what have you. The games I'm talking about today are Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and these are actually very impressive games, all things considered. I am more of a casual player than anything else, but I know there's been a lot of good things about some of the new Pokemon competitive-wise, and overall, I mean, from the beginning when these games are first announced to be released, the trailers looked tremendous compared to a lot of newer Pokemon games that have come out recently. And actually, I'm thinking, and I could be wrong on this, this was the first time, I believe, a main series Pokemon game has had a professional singer take part in the trailer for the official release. If anyone remembers what that song was, it was Celestial by Ed Sheeran. A very talented artist. I recommend his music a lot. He's a very talented young gentleman. But the thing that really stood out to me about these games is there seemed like there was a lot more to explore than the last two generations. And it's been kind of difficult when it comes to the Pokemon Switch games, because I feel like a lot of them recently have been linear, and once you're done, that's kind of it. There isn't really that much to do afterwards. And so, each game I'm always looking hopeful to see what they do in the next one, what things they do well, what things could be improved upon. And right from the get-go, these games seemed pretty optimistic. Now, I didn't want to get my hopes up too high because, for example, Sword and Shield, the graphics looked okay, the gameplay looked fine, but when they were actually released, I was kind of disappointed due to the lack of stuff you could explore. I mean, it seemed like they took everything that made previous generation games fun and just kind of stripped it down to the bare essentials, like defeat the Dream Leaders, defeat the Pokemon League, and then that was it. There wasn't much left. So, having this new game come out and have it look 10 times better than the past previous games, was amazing. And, I say that it was mainly a Switch issue, but I know for a lot of Pokemon players, a lot of the problem is that a lot of the newer regions are linear, and they don't give you much of a choice of what direction to go. But the nice thing about I found, at least through Gen 1 through Alola, is that you kind of have the option to explore different areas versus just going a straight line. And, there was a lot more, again, I'm just going to say this right off the bat, there was a lot more content as to what you can do once you beat the game. Like, for example, in Alola, you could do the Mantine surfing, which was a really, really fun mini game. And, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, it looked like it was going to bring back some of that pizzazz, as it were. And for the most part, it really succeeded. Now, for my first playthrough, I choose Violet. And I kind of wish I did the other, because the Scarlet version, at least in my opinion, is a lot more fun. And it's kind of an unpopular opinion, because one of the things I noticed within the Pokemon community is that Violet is actually a lot more popular than Scarlet, mainly due to the futuristic Paradox Pokemon. But me personally, I prefer the past Paradox forms. And, it's really interesting to me, because this is the first time, like, we've always had the Pokemon Trainer School, but this is the first time that we've actually got to partake in the classes and not just stop by and visit. with that being said, one of the things I really admire about the game is that they took really, really good care of the graphics. Like, again, I'll bring this up in the Galar region. The region seemed really glitchy as a whole, and it was kind of hard to focus because sometimes Pokemon would appear and disappear without a trace, and in other instances, you've got Pokemon that are kind of glitching out. Like, I remember one of the most popular ones was Steelix, and you would be just standing there, and it looked like it was just like a spinning top, and it was really weird. So, it's one of those things where I'm kind of glad to see that they took care of a lot of that. And that's not to say these games were perfect right out of the gate, because they weren't. There were still a lot of glitches. But let me start off, again, covering the graphics. Again, they were really glitchy, but at the same time, it looked like they took a lot more care and consideration to the background, the layout of the open areas that you could explore. And, it's just one of those things where it feels like, for the first time in a while, I felt like I was actually stepping into the game as a character. And it was something that really, felt important. Because as a Pokemon fan, you kind of want to see the games be the best that they can be. And it's one of those things where I'm kind of glad that, they put more attention into the little details. One of the things that I did find a little bit disappointing with the game is the sandwich feature. Maybe it's just because it wasn't doing it right, but I was kind of disappointed that you didn't have much of an option to customize it, even when it came to the number of greetings you put on. To give you kind of a little something to compare to, in the past generation Galar, when you were making the curry, you could add up to several different ingredients, and that kind of gave you more stuff to work with. But in Paldea, you could only work with those certain 3 ingredients. And even when you were trying to make it, it wasn't like there was any mini game like with the Pokeblocks or the curry. It was just you press A and then that was it. And it kind of felt like they took away from that. So that was really disappointing. As far as the Pokemon designs go, I was kind of taken aback. Because the previous generation's Pokemon, some of them I couldn't believe were actually Pokemon. But in this generation, all the Pokemon were really well thought out and really well designed. I think one of my personal favorites, and this is going to be a popular opinion, one of my favorites is Paldean Wooper and its evolution Clodsire. That was a pretty welcome surprise, because I haven't felt like Wooper's one of my favorite Pokemon. I'm just going to get this right out of the gate. And seeing it get some new forms was really welcome in my opinion, because there's Pokemon you see that get a lot of attention, and there's Pokemon that you see that are kind of brushed off to the side. So being able to see that your favorite Pokemon is getting more attention from the creators, it really makes you feel like, okay, the creators are taking a lot of consideration. So yeah, it really made me happy to see a lot of older Pokemon get more forms. And they didn't do 100% well, because I kind of have to agree with the community on the whole Palafin issue. Like, I didn't even notice, first of all, and actually I'm going to talk about that for a little bit. Because when you look at some of the evolution requirements for a lot of these Pokemon, it's ridiculous. I'm not going to spoil all of them for those who haven't played yet, but one of the biggest ones that I took an issue with is the walk 100 or 1,000 steps to the Pokemon by your side, because there was no way to count how many steps you were taking. There was no way to know, could you put it back in your Pokeball for a little bit to give it a break and then bring it out again, or was it all consecutive? And that was really frustrating, because it seemed like you were putting more of an effort than it was to actually evolve the Pokemon. And even when we're looking at, again, a lot of previous evolution forms, like take Inkay for example. Um, it kind of felt like that situation because if you want to evolve an Inkay, you have to turn the console upside down. But you wouldn't know that unless you actually looked it up online, and that's kind of what I felt happened with a lot of the Pokemon in Paldea. They kind of had that similar uh, evolution effect, and I can understand why a lot of fans were unhappy about that. And again, Palafin in particular, like for those who don't have access to the internet, it would be impossible to evolve because you need to battle 52, or it was either battle 52 or meet 52 trainers in the Pokemon Union, and that is something that's really difficult if you don't have and a Pokemon Nintendo account. And that's another thing that I would like to just go on a side tangent for a bit. I find it really ridiculous that you have to pay to be able to play with friends on a Switch game that is solely based on you trading with other players and stuff like that. I remember back in Gen 3, uh, Ruby Sapphire, Leaf Green, and Fire Red, they gave you the link cable so it was easier to trade with friends. And that was, you paid with that for the package, so it's not that hard. But then you've got an entire subscription that you need to pay for. It feels like insult to injury because not only are you taking away the experience of playing with friends, you're also making it impossible to complete the game that you designed for them to try to complete. Uh, and I apologize for going off on that little rant. It's something that really irks me. But going back to the good things about it, I like that they gave you the option of picking which route you want to go. Like it, most of the games they're the same game just with different. But this one is actually like you were choosing between two different universes. You got the one that was focusing on the past and one that's focusing on the future. So I thought that was pretty impressive, so to speak, because it gave you like you had more control over the game, and that was something really I felt was really nice. And I can understand why they weren't able to bring back all the Pokemon that have been in the games previously because trying to download over 1,000 Pokemon in one Switch game would be impossible. Especially, you have to take into consideration the walking animations, the battle styles, all that stuff, and it would be extremely difficult to do all by yourself. So, I can understand why there was a limited space for what Pokemon they wanted to bring back. A lot of Pokemon that I wish could have seen make a return were, let's see, Go-Go for one of them. Or maybe they did, I'm not sure. But like I said, there was definitely some Pokemon that I wish could have made... there we go. No, I just thought of one. Poochyena. That one was one and I think it could have gotten a Paldea form if you want me to be perfectly honest. There was certainly a theme that, especially with one of the characters, arcs that you had to go through, there was a room for a new Poochyena evolution. So, overall, I would give these games, I'd say, if I'm being completely fair here, I would give it a B. And again, the reason why I'm giving it a B instead of an A is mainly because I feel like they took away a lot of the things that made Pokemon games enjoyable. Like fishing, for example. I loved fishing. I don't like the fact that you don't get the fishing rod anymore. And entering buildings. That was one of the things that was kind of part of the exploration and the adventure in Pokemon games. It was being able to go into different buildings, they could be old, they could be new, and it gave you a lot more area to explore, but when they took away that feature, it felt like they really took away a lot of the stuff that made the games a little bit more, adventurous. And, I mean, for those of you who've been around since the beginning, you would remember a lot of the older buildings that you could explore, like the old chateau, the abandoned power plant in Fire Red and Leaf Green. I feel like a lot of those older buildings that were left up to explore kind of added to the mystique of the game, kind of made it a little bit worthwhile to explore. But again, I can't completely diss these games either because it was a huge leap from what we got in Galar and what we eventually received in Paldea. And yeah, I do think that they could take a little bit more time into trying to figure out which, like, with their animation and what they want to put their focus on more. But overall, these games were really well executed. I liked the music, and okay, one of the things I loved more than anything is the not only the story routes that you could take, like you could take Nemona's route, you could take the Team Star route, or you could take the Irvin route, the Cook. I like how they managed to give you three separate routes and yet artistically bring it back to where they all kind of tied together. And that is something that I have never seen in a Pokemon game before. Like, usually it follows the standard formula of going from gathering the gym badges, trying to stop the evil team, then defeat the Elite Four. But for this game, they actually gave you the option of which route to take. Like, which one you wanted to focus on first. Me, personally, I did all three at once. Well, I tried to. See, if you're gonna do that, and I've seen this in a lot of reviews too, you kind of make the leveling system go consistent with which route you take. You can't say it's open-ended and then have the level balance be completely out of whack. You've kind of got to work it in there as the level system is going to be the same as where you are in the game. But even with that fact being the case, I still can't give it a lower score than B, because, you know, the opening of the story may have taken a while, but the ability to explore the entire Paldea region and the ending, they were also beautiful, and I'm not going to spoil it for those who haven't played before. But if you're looking to start in the Pokemon franchise for the first time, or you want a good game to, kind of play through on a run or whatever, I would highly suggest these games, because they have a lot to offer in comparison to a lot of later generation games. And I'm really, really, really impressed with how well they did in making sure that this game had a lot to offer. And yeah, there are going to be a lot of glitches, and I haven't even played the downloadable content yet, or the DLC, so like the Teal Mask and the other one, I am blanking on the name right now, I can't remember, but that's okay. Once I'm able to get those games, I'm looking forward to seeing what they have to offer. But, you know, this game, I like that they went back with the color theme, and I like how much attention they gave to the story and the characters. It didn't feel like you were just on another adventure. It felt like you were completely starting over from your adventure. And as someone who's been there since the first games were released, that really made me happy to experience all over again. That feeling of setting off for your adventure for the first time. And, you know, not everyone's going to be a Pokemon fan. Not everyone plays for the experience. A lot of people. And if you're looking for the challenging, Nuzcore Heartlocks, this game is good for that too, because it will give you a run for your money, challenge-wise. But, you know, no matter if you're playing for the challenge, you're playing for the story, you're playing for just a casual player, I highly recommend these games. They are some of the best Pokemon games to come out in recent years, and I stand by that statement. Again, it's completely my opinion. But with that being said, if you ever are looking for a game to dip your toes into the Pokemon world for the first time, these would be one of the first ones that I highly recommend. That would be my overall review of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, as it were, for right now. I'll probably make another video about it when I'm able to get the other two DLCs. But for now, I really hope you enjoyed the video. It was a pleasure to make. And again, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. If you liked it, please leave a like, a comment, and hey, even comment your favorite Pokemon. I'd love to know. And subscribe. It's something that I really look forward to doing, and I like talking about this kind of content with you. So yeah, that's all I have for you today. I will look forward to seeing you in the next video, and I hope you all have a great night. Later.